Hello. Uh, we've been married for 16 plus years now. And if memory serves me correctly, we just had our first disagreement that did not have me being defensive from the get-go. How we got here could save you some years of anguish like it didn't. It could have saved me, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome back or to the Gray Couch, where we say that life is not black or white, but many shades of gray, and we get to explore those shades together to become better beings in better relationships. I'm Stanley, and this is my beautiful bride
Otito.
of 16 years. So, right into the story. Otito had traveled, and there was a return heavy suitcase that was downstairs needing to go upstairs. I go out and I come back in, and this suitcase is no longer there. I go upstairs and it's upstairs. And so I asked Otito, did child one bring this bag upstairs for you? To which he responded, no. Did you ask him to bring it up for me? Getting somewhere there, getting hot. I'm like, no, but if he saw a bag there, at least he should know that the bag needs to come up, as heavy as it is, he's the man of the house and things like that. To which Otito responded, do you normally see things and take care of them right on the spot?
I'm fighting for my child, for which he was unaware.
Now, the old Stanley would have taken this as a veiled attempt at accusation and responded a little bit more exothermically, volatile. But I just calmly responded that, of course I do. I take care of all the stuff that needs taking care of that I observe. To which girlfriend here gave me the eye of, boy, you know you're lying.
You lying. You lying. Yeah, it was interesting. That's what I say, the stories that people tell themselves, because the suitcase was overnight. All through the night. It stayed there, went up, went down, everybody doing their thing. In the morning, I come and take my suitcase. But what I was telling him was, look, I bought it up myself because I also did not ask you to bring up the suitcase for me. Like, I didn't ask you, so there were like zero expectations on my part. I guess somebody could say, well, he's the husband, he could bring it up, but that's on you, right? Because I didn't ask you. So maybe while you're now asking, is this idea of, dang, I should have brought up the suitcase, like they beat me to it, or she beat me to it. And so the question was, you knew you wanted to bring it up. Why didn't you bring it up? Like, what was the issue, And then it's like, well, I wanted to spray it down, So again, it's like, okay, it's done. Let's kind of just move on. But brings up an important point of the defensiveness. And then it was me that said to him, I said, this was a very interesting conversation because the conversation just ended. There was no conflagration or just, you said I did this or this and that. And then, before the thing escalates and goes off or degrades. Like we were talking about, should you be escalate or degrade? Both of them. Like it just becomes nothing. It becomes something about nothing. That's the word that someone said. The couples fights are always about nothing. Like if you go into the depth of the thing, you find out that it wasn't about anything. It's just about people's feelings and things. But yeah, I was now asking him. I said, "What happened? What do you think happened about this particular incident?" And he said,
"Well, I backtracked when she eyed me out. I don't say she called me out on if I did. He eyed me, and also eyed me, and I backtracked and revised my statement from I always take care of things to I try to take care of things most times, And so with that, giving that way out,
which is true,
which is truer than the first thing of I always take care of things, and it's not about absolutes, and I typically call out the kids on absolutes also. So with that backtracking, that just slowed things down, and when I did that, she agreed with me, and the disagreement just ended like that, just as quickly as it started. And I'm like, oh wow, this was interesting. And when she said this was the first discussion I think we've had in all this where someone's not defensive and combative, I thought, wow, if that's true, then it was so easy. It was that old commercial, so easy it came out to do it. But anyway, I'm just thinking, what came to mind? Why did I do that? So there are three things that I think when I was trying to analyze it to see what I did. Three things, and those could be helpful for communications like this to prevent them from being defensive, you know. The first was that I used I statements as much as possible. And the I statements, I was not hurling accusations at her, or throwing at her things that I was feeling and now projecting towards her, which is something that I love to do a whole lot. You know, I mean, you see the world through the lenses that you have, and if I'm feeling this, I'm expecting the person to do that. That's the first thing. The second is that I actively listened. And we mentioned this in past episodes about active and constructive listening, but I listened actively as opposed to looking for a way to defend myself or counteract what she's saying. You know, I was receptive. Let me hear what she's saying and trying to see things from her perspective. And I guess the last thing was I took responsibility. When I realized that I was not being truthful with my statement, I took responsibility and I just backtracked. I was not afraid to say, hey, I made a mistake with this, you know, and continued with that. So those are the three things that I try to do. I guess it comes from that thing of was that thing that Napoleon Hill? There's a book that Napoleon Hill talks about. Think and Grow Rich. I don't know. Maybe he was talking about relationships. As opposed to responding spinally and not thinking, I should have paused. Yeah, I should have paused, thought about my actions and my response, and then I responded to that. So maybe there's a richness to that I was talking about. Even like people talk about money.
I know. Yeah, but I think the other part that I was also thinking about myself, because it's like, okay, what's going on here? And I was telling Stan, I said, this is where awareness kind of, to me, this is where awareness, you know, helps a lot when we talk about awareness and being just conscious of things, because defensiveness is learned, right? It's a learned behavior. It's not something we're born with. And most times we learn defensiveness as a coping mechanism, right? And again, you know, no offense to our parents or anything, but if you grew up all the time with people blaming you for things, you're going to find many, many ways to kind of lob it back. And that's really what defensiveness is. Like, even when the person has not blamed you, which you have not yet listened to what the person is going to say, you're lobbing it back. So it's like an if-then, right? And so we had a webinar last month, right? It was last month? Yeah, it was last month. Yeah. And, you know, if you want to re-listen or re-watch, we're going to put the link out there. But this was kind of the conversation we're having, where there's an if-then that happens many times with some of us with learned behaviors, right? And this happens to me as well. Like there's certain people, right, that will begin to have a conversation or begin a thought or begin a sentence, and already your brain is like, oh, they're going to go this way. Now you don't know what they're going to say, but you've associated it with that. When my wife is asking me this question about the box, it's going to be a blaming kind of question, right? Even though I've not yet heard the question, but you're just like, I know this woman, she's going to ask me a question that will be a tough question. So you've already, like, you know, prepared to just like throw it back. And so even when what the person is saying is making sense, you're not necessarily hearing it. And I think that's what I mean by learned behavior. And so until you consciously decide to kind of, I'll say break free or break through or whatever it is that people want to do there, it's going to be tough, right? In that sense. And that's kind of where I kind of appreciate what he's saying, that is the defensive person who needs to let down their guard. The other person cannot do it for them, right? Like the other party cannot do it for you. It's really, really hard, right? But it's the thing that we have to learn how to do. And defensiveness, you know, forget that it's him and I talking. Everybody does it at work. Maybe something that a person does at work, like you're just not used to criticism and you will come back with, you know, 1,001 comebacks. Just saying how, think about this in other like aspects of relationship, right? And sometimes it's not the man, it's the woman who gets very defensive, right? So again, it's just, these are communication inhibitors is what I guess what we're trying to say. Communication inhibitors and conflicts, like, what's the word?
Inducers?
It's not even inducer.
I said like I said, it said inhibitor.
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry guys, for the people who are not familiar with drug inducers and inhibitors. But it just stokes the flames of conflict, right? That's kind of why, if you follow John Gottman's work, he talks about the four horsemen. That's why, criticism and defensiveness becomes one of the four horsemen. Like, you can only take so much of that, because it's like, after the person just puts up their hand and just say, one cannot even have a conversation with you, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. So for some people, it becomes very inhibitory, since we're still talking about inhibition. And so, yeah, just something to think about. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one last thing. Where he said coping mechanism for defensiveness, I saw it as a survival mechanism, depending on the kind of background that you came from. And so if that's what you use to survive, it's very, very hard for you to let down what you think is your only form of survival. And that's what we have for you for this week. From our couch to yours. Thanks for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to sit with you guys and just talk with you guys. Send your emails to that address if you have questions for us. We'd love to answer some of your questions and bring you a little bit closer into our community. Yeah, and I think I will want to leave you with one thought, like a reframing thought. Like, instead of being defensive against your spouse, both of you should work together to be to kind of make sure you're in defense against outside threats, right? In that sense, so the defensiveness should be together against external threats, right? All right. Bye, guys.